Come out with us and play. Love Your London. Have a banana. Welcome to Love Your London, Angel Islington, episode 6. We are still in the wonderful area of Canonbury. In this episode, there is a chance encounter outside a transparent house with the nephew of one of the most famous people to have come from Ireland. Plus, we'll be taking a look inside a working man's club and explaining what they are all about, as well as a butcher's around London's only purpose-built puppet theatre. But, assuming you are following on from episode 5, Sharon had just finished drawing the 18th century watchman's hut alongside the New River Walk. At the time of this episode going live, you are still in time to bid for it, and the link is in the description below. Okay, so here we are. The New River Walk carries on a little bit further, but here we are at the Marquis Tavern. The reason we're here is not to look at the tavern, but to look at a building that's next door. This is fantastic, and then it really, even though it's an extraordinary build, it does fit in quite well with the area. It's almost invisible, you could say. Let's check this out. Okay. Okay, so here we are at number 40 Douglas Road. This is the private home of Debra Hauer, the American theatre producer, and Jeremy King, the restaurateur. Now the name Hauer-King may ring a bell because their son, I'm sure you've heard of, is Jonah Hauer-King, who was born in 1995. He was in Little Women, the film version of Little Women, and the TV version of Howard's End. Who are Hauer-King? Well, they, as I said, they're a very famous couple. They're still living there today, as far as I'm aware. But it's the architect that I really want to tell you about. This was designed by Future Systems, and actually, as you can see down there, you can see another floor. Even though this is the entrance, this is actually on the first floor. There's a ground floor underneath that. You get a better idea of that now, because we're just going to show you now what it looks like from behind. As you can see, there's a slope. There's actually a 50-degree angle. This fantastic example of neo-futurism was designed by Jan Kaplický and Amanda Levete in 1993. Now Jan died in 2009. He was a Czech genius. Now fans will recognise his work as having designed the media centre at Lord's Cricket Ground, but most famously he designed the Selfridges building in Birmingham, you know, in the Bull Ring. It's probably now the building that is most recognisable when you talk about Birmingham. The Selfridges building is an example of what's called blobitecture. It's amazing blobismus. Now I'm going to show you a little bit now of footage from the BBC iPlayer. I'm pretty sure that we are allowed to show it because this is a review, and you are allowed to show copyright footage if we're reviewing it. So this is this what you're seeing now on screen is from 1996, when architect Will Alsop visited the property. As you can see just now, you can see little Jonah's cot in it. I love these.
Probably how old? Probably 2, 3 maybe.
Well, yes, he would have been about a couple of years old. I think it was because he was born in 1995, and this was filmed in 1996. So it's probably about 1 year old. I think his sister Margot is there as well. She's a bit older. Yeah. I love these stainless. This is all stainless steel, and these stainless steel supports as well. And as you can see inside, there's these yellow cube, so that's sort of like where the bathrooms and the bedrooms are. The bedroom on the very top floor is open to the elements, but there is like a blind that you can pull down to protect yourself. Now the reason why this is curved is because there used to be here a huge tree, and they built this curved thing so as not to disturb the tree. In fact, it took quite a lot of time to build because they were very, very careful not to disturb any of the local flora, and also they were really careful not that the foundations didn't disturb any roots of any of the trees around here. But as you can see, this is curved because of the tree. Now if you look here on Google Street Maps, you'll see that the tree was still there in 2009, but in the 2012 version of Google Street Maps, the tree is gone. So at some point between 2009 and 2012, the tree was taken down. I don't know what that happened. Obviously it was a very tough decision to make because that tree was very important to the family. Did you know the couple in there, or do you remember it?
Sorry?
Do you know the couple who lived here, or?
No, I don't actually.
No.
I've just got back from the tree.
Do you mind if I talk to you on camera, or?
No problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Jonathon Bourke is my name, Major Jonathon Bourke.
Okay.
I just got back from a 25-year experience in the military. My aunt, you probably will know, my surname is Bourke, B-O-U-R-K-E. My first name is Jonathon, and my aunt was Mary Bourke from Mayo, and then she married Nick Robinson, so she is now Mary Robinson. But she at the time was the first female president ever in Ireland.
Yes, Mary Robinson.
Very good.
Yeah.
An amazing woman. My other colleague, who is quite aggressive, when I used to be in Rwanda and Burundi and various other joints in Africa, she's married now to Cassius or something like that. And an incredible woman. I mean, I used to hang out with her as a child, 4, 5, 6, getting potatoes and having Coca-Colas and getting up to all kinds of mischief. But she married this amazing character, and her name is Samantha Power. Do you know who she is?
I know Mary Robinson, but
Samantha Power is in charge of USAID at the moment. And she used to live, when she was in New York, a very charming woman, a very brilliant intellect. She worked with the current guy who's in charge, Joe Biden. They shared an apartment together. Nothing, anything untoward went on. But she admires him because he showed empathy for her to quietly calm down, quietly, and just get your act together, and the rest will be all good. So that's a little bit of my history.
thank you for sharing it. It's always amazing how you can bump into such interesting characters in London on any given day. We did fact check as much as possible, and to the best of our abilities, everything Jonathon told us appears to be verifiable. We continued our walk down the path of the New River, following it back towards Canonbury Gardens and onto Astey's Row Playground, past the stunningly beautiful HQ of Greenpeace UK on Canonbury Villas, and through Astey's Row Rock Garden, with its beautiful willow trees and interesting landscapes. And then we made our way back towards Essex Road. Please don't forget that if you are quick, you may still be in time to bid for Sharon's one-off drawing of the Watchman's Hut. Other ways that you can support our channel is by becoming a patron via Patreon, or to help us for free, you can simply like this video, share it on your social media, and please remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't done so already. It costs you nothing. But now we had summer to look forward to, a few weeks of chilling by the pool and relaxing with family. We needed to be back in time for London Open House, which is over 2 weekends instead of 1 this year, and to see what Canonbury had chosen to open up to the public. It is a shame that the Hauer-King House wasn't part of the scheme, or the amazing Canonbury Tower that we saw a couple of episodes ago, but we can at least tell you about the fascinating local working men's club, as well as the famous puppet theatre. But first, as always, we need to tell you a little bit about the local station. Okay, so we are here at Canonbury Station, and it's a fine station. No toilets, I'm afraid, no toilets, but it is one of the most accessible stations. It's really fantastic. It's now an interchange station between the East London line and the North London line as part of the London Overground system. And it's completely accessible. There's lifts on every single platform. It is a fantastic example of how the other station should be. There's no toilets for disabled people, but there's no toilets for anyone. So, but there's loads of pubs around, so you know it's not the end of the world. But yeah, there's not really very much we can say about this station, unfortunately, because it was completely refurbished in I think 2007. There's even a kiosk in there where you can buy refreshments. This station actually opened in 1858, and when it opened it was called Newington Road and Bull's Pond Road, and actually it was located on the other side of the road, but about 12 years later it moved over to this side of the road. Nice fine building that was torn down I think in the 60s. Nothing wrong with it. I don't know why they pulled it down, but anyway, we have this station now. It's nice, it's airy. Unfortunately not an awful lot we can say about this station, nothing exciting, so let's move on to the London Open House. Now, London Open House happens every year. Last year was a bit scuppered because of the pandemic, but it happens every year. This year it's normally called London Open House Weekend, but this year it's just called London Open House Festival because it's happening over not just 2 weekends but also a lot of the days in between. Okay, so we are here approaching Newington Green. It's quite an up and coming, fairly affluent neighbourhood. I mean, back where we live in Shadwell, you can get a big bowl of fruit for £1. Right. Over here, kiwi, £1.25 each, and these pomegranates £2.95 each.
Those are your mum and dad's, and their garden are bigger. Oh, actually,
£2.95 each. That's expensive. Now, I'm sure you've heard of gentlemen's clubs. Gentlemen's clubs obviously has two meanings. There's a seedy version of gentlemen's clubs, I'm not talking about them, but you've got those gentlemen clubs like the Groucho and the Savile Club. Those kinds of gentlemen's clubs are very much for the aristocratic and upper classes. But there was a movement to try and bring a men's drinking club. Actually, it didn't start off as a drinking club, it started off as part of the temperance movement, but it very, very soon became a place for drinking because when the members started to take over the venues, and they were called working men's clubs. Now, as you can tell by the word men's in there, they started off as predominantly, well, as uniquely for men, as did the gentlemen's clubs. But every single working man's club now, well, certainly the ones that are run by CIU, which this one that we're going to see are open to female members as well. But so it's only just men's in the title. CIU stands for Club and Institute Union. Now, the fact I've got the word union and workers in the same sentence, you may think this is something to do with the trades union, but no, there's nothing to do with trades union. They're actually not political at all. They did start off very political. They started, in fact, this one in particular was a radical club. It used to be called the Mildmay Radical Club, and it was a hotbed of people trying to, fairly progressive. They were anti-Boer War. They were trying to push for votes for suffrages and stuff like that. So they were not. They were quite radical. But in 1930, the Mildmay Radical Club stopped being political and just became the Mildmay Working Man's Club. And it's one of the very last ones in London that are still 100% working man's clubs. There's lots of other working man's clubs in London. There's the Bethnal Green one, which we'll be visiting fairly soon in a later episode, but that's also very much an entertainments venue. This is just, I mean, they do have entertainments here. In fact, if you're a fan of Stuart Lee's comedy Vehicle was filmed here. But this is predominantly a place where members of the working classes can get together and have a cheap drink, because their drinks are subsidised through their membership. Just as we're walking towards the place, a little bit about gentlemen's clubs, because we will obviously be talking a lot about gentlemen's clubs, especially when we go to Soho. We won't be allowed inside any of them, I don't think. They're very, very exclusive. Sharon actually won't even be allowed through the door of some of them.
That shouldn't be allowed.
I know it shouldn't be allowed.
No discrimination based on race, gender, sexual orientation, religion.
Absolutely. But there are some places like the Beefsteak Club that don't even allow women through the door still. It really is quite disgusting that is allowed. This is not like that. This is not like that. All women can join these places. Yeah.
What about, so if I became a man, legally change my name to male, even if I'm just self-identifying as male, would that count?
Now that's really an interesting question. Yes, in a way, yes, but it's really interesting. You should say that. Yes. Now, the Savile Club, which does not accept female members, a male, well, someone who was born male transitioned into a female while being a member, so is at the moment the only female member of the Savile Club. Now, this actually raises a really interesting ethical question, because seeing that they don't accept female members, if they were being fair, they should have actually banned her from being a member after she transitioned into female, because that would then mean that they're honouring her new female gender. But this is very interesting, because if they had kicked her out, that would of course have been very transphobic. Yeah. But the very fact that she is kept, the very fact that she is allowed to stay after transitioning means that that's also kind of transphobic, isn't it? Because it means that they're not sort of acknowledging the fact that she is now female, or they are. But I tell you what would be really interesting is if a trans man were now to join, who is already transitioned, would they honour him as a member? That would be interesting. That hasn't been put to the test yet. But anyway, that's the Savile Club. As I said, this is quite different. Okay, so here we are. This is the Mildmay Club. Looking forward to coming in here. As you can see, affiliated with the C&I Union. This place has been used for so much filming. It's unreal. I mean, you'll recognise, I'm sure, some of this when you go in.
This is the Mildmay Club, and it was originally the Mildmay Radical Club, it was two buildings, separate buildings, which were owned by women of independent means. They gave the buildings to the club, and a club member built what you now see. Now, it was built, as you will imagine, it was built in 1888. It was built as a Victorian building, but what you're actually going to see as you come in is very much a 60s club, and that is what it's listed for. It's now Grade 2 listed as a sort of 1960s venue. That's what you'll see.
It's a Victorian building.
It's Victorian.
But it's very much in the Queen Anne style.
Sorry?
Is it very much in the Queen Anne style?
Yeah, above all of this, yes. But this, what you're going to see is the 1960s, that's the background to it. This is the sort of 1960s look that was created. So behind all of this, we think there are tiles, which you will see. This would have been the original tiling, and the tiling on the floor, which is now behind these panels. But since we're listed as we look, that's not something we can explore. Equally, the ceilings, will show you into the main hall, and there would have been all these original murals on the wall and seating built in, which is now largely all gone.
And we'd like to take this opportunity for thanking what the Mildmay Club and Historic England have done in keeping this club like it is. Short-sighted people may think that all that 60s Formica and yellow wallpaper should be stripped out so that we may enjoy the hidden Victoriana that probably lies beneath. But if we were to do that, we would lose the 60s time capsule we are standing in presently. Put it this way, late Victorian design was, for the people in the 1960s, what outdated 1960s design is for us today. Back in the 60s, they destroyed a lot of perfectly good Victoriana, as indeed happened to the old Canonbury Station. We regret it now, of course. Well, in 60 years' time, in the 2080s, for them, the 1960s will be like what the Victorian era is for us today. We need to be forward-thinking, like what the Mildmay Club is doing, or we will have nothing left to show of the 1960s to the next generation and beyond. By the way, apologies for the terrible picture quality of the video inside the Mildmay Club. We clearly forgot to switch on the 1960s setting, and for some reason our GoPro decided to go all juddery and turn off the image stabilisation. We have no other explanation why, for some reason, the picture quality in this footage is so bad.
So back in the day, this room would have been of a very different formation. It would have been proscenium arch stage with stall seating.
Yep.
And I think you saw some images downstairs, but I'll show you again. And then you saw those archways that were in that picture.
Yep.
So if you have a look very faintly behind that wall,
oh yes, I can see them.
you can see where the original archways would have been. Bearing in mind this was a Victorian building, so where we've got our polystyrene tiles now, above those we've got about another 2.5 metres height, and there would have been a glass roof, which now is covered over. In the 60s, when they sort of redecorated and did this decor, I'm not sure if it was quite then, but when dancing became fashionable, they took out the stall style seating, put in a sprung dance floor, which is where we're standing now. So today at the club, we do use the club. It's an active working men's club, which is really interesting for me. It's one of the beautiful things about this place is that it's authentic and used, because so often you walk into buildings which are stunning like this, but the doors are closed and nothing happens there. We actually use this. Everybody who's a member now enjoys this club. You know, it's their club and they really love it and respect it. It's you know, such a stunning building. Whenever we do any type of refurbishment here, we're always very, very careful to be as true to the original, to the authenticity. For example, just recently, and I mean, no one even notices this, but we're very aware of it. We've put on these 2 boxes here because we had to for fire regs, but we haven't been able to quite match the veneer correctly. Right. But that will be something that will be an ongoing project to try and find just the right wood, just everything to be just so as it was. You'll see downstairs the snooker hall. Okay. Beautiful. I'll show you when we're down there, but Victorian tables that would have been built in situ. And again, we've just had the whole room redone exactly as it was. So people came in and they went, what have you done? We've done everything and nothing, and that's the thing. It's really important to maintain the sort of integrity of the building internally and externally. It's also grade 2 listed, which means that we have to adhere to those, but those prerequisites. And pre-pandemic, we would always have members' live music up here, dancing and live bands, duets and that type of thing. And then we've got this fantastic What's Not to Love kitsch bar from heaven with a mustard formica and fake leather, glitter.
And I've got to ask you, during the pandemic, obviously you couldn't bring anyone here. Did membership drop off, or did people carry on supporting?
Membership actually didn't really drop off. We ran a food bank from here throughout the pandemic, so we were able to still continue to serve the local community even though we were closed. And Jane, all right. Dear, yes, darling. Would you be able to have a chat with us about all of your fantastic archive?
Right, the letters that was actually in here, right, are 460. They was actually found up in the attic, and they were sent back to the the Mildmay Club from the trenches, right, from the members of this club, which are over there, which is the rifle range, as you know about the rifle range. Right, now what they used to do, they sent them back. The reason why is because they were sending tobacco and also gloves, scarves. The women used to actually knit them for them, because at one time the women wasn't allowed down in the members' bar. They used to be in a little bar on their own. Okay, so they used to bring in their knitting and have the children there, and the men used to take the drinks. Now, as you see, we've got an honours list, and if you notice the Barrows, they're all brothers. Now, they all died, and they're all in Flanders now. And one brother, the youngest one, because he was the one to go first, right? They actually shipped his body with his brothers, and that's exactly where they are, and that's the Barrows.
Oh, sad.
Can you see?
Yeah.
All right. And as you can see, the posters that's up here now, right? They used to send them back to their loved ones. Okay, so that they had something to remember them by. And
what does gone west mean? I mean, I see some of them say
that means they've gone west. They've gone west. That's where they were. Gone west.
Right. They went on the Western Front.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So
I wasn't sure if it was a euphemism for something else.
Yeah. Now, in this one, prisoner of war, all he's worried about is his membership. Okay. Now, during the First and Second World War, what the actual club done, they said that no fees are allowed. So therefore, until they come back, because you've got to realise, at that particular time, there was over 2,000 members in this club. 2,000.
Wow.
Okay? And then, you've got one that was censored very early. Alright? When they used to go through their letters, so the Germans didn't actually read them and tell us where they were in the trenches. They had to censor them before they come to England.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the boys over here.
How many members do you have now?
600.
That's still a fairly good amount.
The boys here are the actual rifle brigade, but none of them come back.
Oh,
none of them.
None of them.
But only that, they was our cricket team as well. Yeah. And on the side here, that's the list of the tobacco we used to send out to them, and we used to get a stamp on it, so you know exactly how much it cost and everything else. Half a mile from the Bosch.
Yeah.
And he says the reason why I know that because I can see the top of their helmet, because they had these spikes, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he says, it also turns around and says that he said, I don't know why I'm actually here, he said, but I've got to go now because the whistle's gone, so you know they're going over, don't you?
Sounds like a Wilfred Owen poem, doesn't it?
Eh?
Sounds like a Wilfred Owen poem.
Yeah. So, you know...
Dolce decorist.
Yeah.
Pro patria mori. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are here by the statue by Maggie Hambling, cost £143,000, and it is for Mary Wollstonecraft, 1759 to 1797, the mother of feminism, basically. She's the mother of feminism, died in childbirth quite early, after a long campaign to try and get a statue, because most statues in the capital are of men, as you know. So this was a really important moment to create this statue. Now, it has, a lot of people love it. It has got its critics, mainly the fact that there is an unclothed female at the top who doesn't actually look anything like Mary at all.
It's actually sort of body fascist as well. Like women in the 18th century certainly didn't look like that.
She's just actually representing womanhood. It's a female figure, but there are people who complained of the fact that I think she's a feminist, that it shouldn't actually be a naked person on top of the statue.
Well, didn't she live to 38?
Yeah, she died in childbirth.
Well, 38 dying in childbirth for that era, that's a geriatric mother.
She's a really interesting person, a very important early feminist, proto-feminist. But yes, it has its detractors. I personally quite like it. I'm not sure if it's worth £143,000, but it took a long time to make, a long time to commission. Okay, let's go to the next place.
Okay.
Here we are. Hello.
Who's going to join our class? Here he is.
Hello. We're from Love Your London. We're doing a vlog about London. Hello there.
It was originally built as a primary school, so the theatre building. So the church set up a primary school, a sort of charitable primary school for poor children, and they built this as one of the first permanent sites of it. It was then bought as a temperance hall about 10 years later, and was like that for a while, and then it was bombed in the Second World War. Well, the church was bombed, and some of the debris from the church fell and destroyed this building instead. And then John and Lindy Wright and a group of South African puppeteers came and found the sort of derelict remnants of the building and built the puppet theatre that we see today.
Fantastic. So this is built as London's only puppet theatre, only...
It's not the only puppet theatre.
No, there's a barge in Little Venice, isn't there?
Barge, yeah. Also, so it's the UK's only theatre with a permanent marionette bridge. That's the main sort of claim to fame. So there are what's called touring marionette bridges, where people take them and build them in different venues. Yep. But this is the only venue, as far as we're aware, in England, where there's a permanent bridge.
Fantastic.
So when you go backstage, my colleague Alex will tell you all about it, and you'll be able to see.
Is marionettes, puppets, the format that tends to be shown more here, or because nowadays you sort of like see the performer as well on stage, don't you?
So we use a mixture of different sort of techniques. So bunraku, which is the rod puppets, or sometimes shadow puppets, and sometimes there's string marionettes, short string marionettes, which are where you see the puppeteer, whereas the long string marionettes, where you don't see it, you just see the puppet on the stage. Long string marionettes are quite tricky nowadays, because it takes a lot of puppeteers to be able to deliver it's quite a complex art form, and so because we're so small, it's quite hard for us to be able to sell enough tickets to subsidise those productions. So unfortunately we don't do as many of those as we would like to.
Oh yeah. Those are the people, our friends.
I'll show you this puppet first. So this is our seagull puppet. That's it. And we control him by using the little string here.
Yeah.
This puppet took 2 weeks to make.
Okay.
So if you look above you up there, you can see the other seagull and the wiring.
Yeah.
So the wire, you'd make the shape first, and then you would build the fabric on, and then it would be sewn together, all hand sewn, and then you would add the strings for the hidden mechanism as well.
Could you actually do puppet course making?
Yes, you can. You can do. Yeah. So if you look on their website, they do lots of adult puppet workshops.
Yeah.
Which we're starting again, especially after COVID. Everything went a bit slow, so we tend to do it. You can make your own marionette.
Yeah.
Shadow puppetry. Lots of different courses from different.
And all the details will be at the bottom of your screen. I believe they start at £200 per term, and they go up to £265.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You have to check on the website.
And there's always every term there's one free person who comes here on a bursary.
Yes.
That's right, for each course.
Right, yes.
Great.
So that's the seagull. Do you want me to show you the other?
Yes, please,
puppets?
yes.
So we've got a wooden puppet here. So John and Lindy founded the theatre, and their son Joe Wright is a film director, and he commissioned Lindy to make 90 of these. So they were carved by Lindy herself, and they would get some leather, put the leather on top, transfer all the detailing onto the leather, and then the leather was made into masks for the actors to wear, and they did some filming with that. The filming was during lockdown, so hasn't yet been released.
Oh, great.
So that's that, and there's lots of different ones back here. So if I pop her up here, I'll show you this back. So traditionally wood, all puppets are made from wood, but we tend to find wood is really heavy. So we try to use styrofoam, which is this stuff, which is really light. But you can still get all the detail from it, so it's all that. So this is what these were made from. So this is Caliban from Shakespeare's The Tempest, a show we put on a few years ago. And this is what we call a maquette.
Yes.
So when we make really big puppets, we tend to make a smaller one first. And then we check everything's okay. So does it move okay? Are we happy with the materials? Does it look okay? Etc, etc. When we're happy with that, this turns into this.
Right, okay. Oh, I love it.
So Caliban was like half reptile, half humans. That's why he looks a bit scaly on there. That's on purpose. And then this is made out of the styrofoam as well. So you might paper mache, and then sand, and then paint, and then again and again and again. This would take 3 people to operate. So you've got a little handle here, and the rod, so that would be 1 person. The second person would hold the body and the arm, the third person on the feet.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And this obviously goes a lot taller than me.
And would the puppeteer sort of like hide behind the screen or no?
So not with this sort of puppet.
No.
They might be, it depends on the direction of the show, but they might be dressed in complete black.
Yeah.
So that you can't see them and the focus is on that sort of puppet. In a couple of our other shows, the puppeteer is also an actor.
Yes.
So they might be focused on the puppet to begin with, but then they might turn to you and sing and be doing a lot of other things as well. So it depends on the show.
I haven't seen one here, but I saw in the Vault Festival a few years ago a show called Sing for Your Life. By Charlie Tuesday Gates. Right. Fantastic. It was like a musical, Avenue Q style musical, but with taxidermy. The puppets were originally taxidermy animals, but they had sort of added teeth and stuff. It was fantastic. But it's for adults.
Yeah,
Did you find that?
We do family shows here.
You do family shows. Do you do sort of like ones that are more like Avenue Q style, more sort of?
There are some musical style ones, yes, but they are all suitable for children.
They're for children,
as well. We do some comedy shows and stuff like that, but that's more on the side.
Yeah.
So most of the stuff is children and family shows. Yay!
There you go.
Let me just show you the stage so you know what I'm talking about. Just have a quick look so you can get an idea. Sure.
Okay.
They've got a show starting next week, so that things are a bit.
Thank you. What was your name?
My name's Alex.
Alex, oh yeah, yes. Yep. Lovely. I'm Tristán.
I'm house manager. Here's the stage, and there's the seats that look at this, and then we'll be looking at the backstage bit where I'll show you the marionette bridge.
Yeah, let's let them all go through, and I'm just.
So that's like the original.
Yes.
Seats.
Yes. But this is meant for long string marionettes. The strings are about 6 feet long. So you'd have a platform to about here, and the puppeteers would lean over and do puppetry from quite a height with 6 feet long strings. And the marionette shows use about 7 performers. They'd have to run around doing all types of puppetry. Not many puppet theatres have a double bridge, so that we can have more puppeteers and they won't knock into each other as they've got spaces to run around. So it's like a boat, the way it all links up. And then you've still have these old bits here, which are quite old scenery from old shows connected with rope and sandbags. You know, there's Little Mermaid, there's Rapunzel, there's all types of things within there. But yes, well, lots of the shows we've done recently have been tabletop puppet shows and rod puppets and shadow and a mixture of different things. But obviously, the last marionette shows we did was probably the last one I can remember which had a lot of marionette in it was Jabberwocky.
And how many people do work in the theatre?
Oh, there's quite a lot. There's up to about 20 members of staff, and then we have to employ lots of people casually as well. Yeah. Because of obviously front of house and people operating shows and people rigging shows, all types of stuff. Let me get it on this side for you. There we go. Then I can move this all walk together.
Kind of creepy, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I've got something on my cheek.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah.
And now he can crouch. He can go right into this small.
Yeah. Oh no! Backside's out. Uh-oh.
His hands are in there. This was made by Peter O'Rourke.
Yep.
He's directed lots of shows here and made puppets for so many shows for Little Angel too. From the Giraffe, the Pelly and Me, which is
that's like something out of a sort of a fever dream. A lot of puppets they are a fever dream. In a good way. It's like, you know, when you're broken the fever and the drugs are starting to work. Very nice. Oh boy.
When it was bought in the 1960s, there was a tree growing up through the roof. So the Wrights put in the roof and they put the rake down into the theatre. And the material of the building is pretty much what as it was. What you see here is the set for There's a Orangutan in My Bedroom, which is the show that's starting in about a week.
Yeah.
And it's based on a Greenpeace advert that went viral with an orangutan.
Okay, yeah.
And then became a children's book, and it's been adapted for stage.
There's a orangutan
there.
Bedroom.
And really excitingly, the set's made of 90% recycled material.
Great.
Which is a really interesting kind of foray in looking at ways we can be a bit more sustainable in our practice. And ages 5 to 11, and has a really nice kind of environmentally sustainable message.
Wait, nice. It's like a big eel or something.
Like a food lizard. Oh, it's a dragon maybe. Yes, it's a dragon.
It's got fins. See? It's attached to the table here.
Okay.
Neato. I want one.
But if you want to put a massive smile on Sharon's face, please don't forget to bid for her drawing of the Watchman's Hut from the last episode, if it's not already sold. We're now taking a couple of weeks off to film more stuff around Angel Islington, but in the meantime we have some specials lined up for you. We will be returning to Aldgate to show you inside the centre of the cell, the very last thing that Will Alsop, remember him, designed shortly before his untimely death in May 2018. We'll also be visiting the Hermitage Community Moorings in Wapping and even getting onto a couple of the boats there. Plus, we'll be having a tango special from the Scoop near City Hall. Till next time. From Acton Town to Wimbledon, from Brixton to beyond, love your London, have a banana.